Hosted by you/throw a pitiful one. I, 28M, knew her since college, and I'll get that out of the way first. The past few days have shown a different side of her that's a little surprising because Kate is her best friend from college. My wife, Nancy, wanted to do a mini talent show at our reception, and she talked it up beforehand too. She read a poem that she made for the event, and Kate performed a song that she wrote. Long story short, one of the guests who I invited is into producing, and he reached out to her after she performed. They exchanged information, and Kate was really excited. He wanted to network with her following the reception, and she even thanked my wife for hosting the talent show over text. But Nancy became really bitter about it, and that's why I'm writing this. She hasn't responded to Kate's message, and she said she regretted doing the talent show too. She also asked me to block Edward, the producer, on my socials/contacts, and I told her that seemed a bit much. She didn't like my answer and said that I was wrong not to take her side after just getting married, but I told her she should be happy for her friend. She didn't like that either and vented to some in our friend group about how Kate was bragging, but some of them disagreed. She said she didn't want to hang out with them for the time being, and that included me too. Two of her girlfriends even texted me that she was overreacting and that they were also surprised to see her act that way. They also asked if she was okay. My dad is suggesting counseling and said that asking me to remove friends is an unhealthy way to start a marriage, and I'm honestly more than a little scared. I asked if she'd be open to counseling, but she said there was no need because Kate was her friend first and I shouldn't choose Kate over her. I just want to ask what to do next since she refused counseling and sees no issue with cutting off our friends. Edit. I want to add that Nancy complained that her poem didn't get as good of a reception as Kate's song. Kate didn't study music in college but practices on the side, and her text was really thankful for the opportunity the talent show provided. Kate is also engaged to her longtime boyfriend. Update 2 weeks later. It's been a little over 2 weeks since my first post, and I've had some time to try and process. A lot of it still feels surreal, having known her since my early 20s and seeing the 180 after the wedding. I want to address a few things that were asked in my first post before getting to the update. Nancy and Kate were not the only ones who performed in the talent show. During planning, Nancy said she wanted to showcase her friends and how awesome/proud she was to have them. She also said it was a bonding thing between her girlfriends, from our friend group, and the girls were the ones who performed. However, given her post-reception 180, it really surprised me compared to her pre-talent show mindset. A few people commented that she didn't need to have a talent show to read the poem she wrote for the wedding. Yes, she could have just read it at any time as the bride. The reason I'm writing this post is because of something else that came up and led to a conversation. We had a vacation planned, but she no longer wants to go on it. Since my first post, she's continued to have random mood swings due to thinking about Kate. Sometimes she vents about how Kate would have nothing without her, and other times she gets really quiet and distant, even while eating. She's also still upset at her girlfriends, whom she vented to about Kate. So, she said I was choosing them over her and that she wouldn't go on our vacation until I cut them off. When I asked her why Kate bothered her so much, she said she had tried to publish a novel in the past and didn't get any hand-me-downs then. But when I reminded her that my friend was a producer on the side in his basement, she said I should have known better than to invite him, as if I should have known he would like Kate's song. When I told her that I wouldn't block the producer or the entire friend group, she said I was entitled like Kate and that she wanted a break because I didn't care about her. I told her that I love her but didn't think it was healthy to cut off everyone. I also said she should be happy for her friend because Kate was really grateful, but she didn't seem to care. She has since gone to stay with her parents and left some of her things in our apartment. I talked to my dad after she ignored my texts and calls for a few days, and he suggested bringing up an annulment because it had gone too far. Her parents have also ignored my calls, but I want to clarify Kate's text before I'm done. Kate wasn't arrogant or anything to Nancy. All she did was thank her for putting together the talent show, which allowed her to network with a producer after the wedding, and she also offered to take her out to lunch as thanks. There was no arrogance from Kate, and the producer is also engaged, as some people inquired about. I'm just really surprised and hurt that her bitterness turned me into the bad guy for inviting my producer friend, as if I was supposed to foresee this and not invite him. Edit. Nancy got the idea to write a poem for the reception after watching the poet Amanda Gorman read her works at the inauguration and Super Bowl. She also said that it wasn't out of place for her to read at the reception because most people watching football aren't smart enough to appreciate poetry. Second update 2 months later. I just wanted to come back to conclude this because it's been helpful to hear opinions and get everything out. A lot of people asked how I was doing in messages, and there were too many to reply to. We are currently in the process of a divorce. She's staying with her parents, and I've had some time to process and see things differently. I want to touch on 2 things that have happened since my update. The first is a Facebook post she made about me and the guests. In her post, she said she was supposed to win and that it was an unwritten rule for the bride to win, as if wedding talent shows are normal. She also accused them of smiting her on her day when no one knew about the talent show beforehand except her participating friends. She then accused me of taking Kate's side instead of comforting her as her new husband. However, taking her side meant cutting off our entire friend group, as she had done in the aftermath. I don't know how her parents feel after she called out both sides of the guests, but at this point, I really don't care. She also wanted me to cut off my producer friend, Edward, who approached Kate after she sang her original song and asked if they wanted to collaborate sometime, and I want to focus on that. I talked to Edward recently about everything, including how Nancy wanted me to cut him off, and he couldn't believe how much it affected her. Nancy and I had watched a football game at his house with him and his fiancée some months back, and he has a day job in an office. When I told him about how Nancy was jealous of Kate's big break, he was shocked. He explained that his plan was simply to let Kate use his audio interface to plug in her guitar and record a high-quality instrumental of her original song, along with using his microphone too. He also mentioned that he wasn't great at mixing and was taking online courses to learn, so he was going to suggest that Kate commission someone to mix and enhance the files they'd record, as he was far from a professional. He's a really chill guy, but he couldn't stop laughing over how Nancy thought he was all that. He only wanted to use his interface to give Kate a high-quality recording after learning that she didn't have equipment and had recorded her original song on her phone. He and his fiancée had planned to invite her for dinner, just like they had me and Nancy over for football, and then record it in the basement afterward. Looking back, it's crazy how you can be blinded to things, but I never imagined just how far she could go. I didn't mention this in my first 2 posts because I thought it might overshadow her actions, but she often posts about women empowerment on her socials, and I recently thought about that for one reason. When I asked her why she wanted to have a talent show, she said it was to emphasize the importance of having good friends because they were important to a relationship. But as I reflect on it now, perhaps it was never really about that. Nancy was bothered the second Kate's song got a better reception than her poem, and she doubled down when she vented to 2 of her girlfriends after the wedding. When they called her out for being jealous, it made her demand that I also cut off our friend group. To everyone who asked about her poem, it was about women empowerment and the importance of having good friends and family when starting a family. She had told me the premise beforehand, although she never showed me the poem. She wanted it to be a surprise, but I never had the chance to see it on paper after the wedding for obvious reasons. Many people also corrected how she said Kate received a hand-me-down opportunity at the wedding, pointing out that the proper term was handout, as many noted. I really appreciate everyone who offered advice. It helped a lot mentally, especially when looking back at how crazy it all was. I'm just hoping to fully get over it as time goes on, but I've made progress and have gotten over some of it recently. Third update 7 months later. I really thought my last update would be the final one, but apparently, Nancy had other ideas. This update doesn't really involve me and is mostly for those who have reached out via DMs, as I can't reply to all of them individually, so this is more convenient. Months later, I'm grateful that everything came out when it did, and we are officially no longer together. Nancy wanted nothing to do with me after accusing me of taking Kate's side, and that made the process easier. However, months later, Nancy's still not over it, but first, I want to give an update on Kate. Kate reached out to me towards the end of the divorce process because Nancy had taken out her frustration on her. She had sent her DMs blaming her for the divorce before it was even official, which was news to me. Kate told me she was sorry for performing at the wedding and for the divorce, but I assured her she had nothing to apologize for. Her best friend had asked her to perform, and she simply did as requested. But Nancy didn't stop at just sending DMs. Since my last update and after the divorce became official, Nancy went online to publicly express her feelings, not just about Kate, but also about the friends who said she was overreacting. She claimed her friends should have talked her out of the talent show because friends look after each other, even though the talent show was entirely her idea and she had pushed for it despite suggestions otherwise. She accused them of being fake friends who never had her back and sided with Kate over her, and she even had the nerve to tag them in the posts. However, she saved the worst for Kate. She accused Kate, and her friends, of setting her up on her day, and she made a separate Facebook post to rant about Kate. She also called her a BTCH among other things, but she also disclosed some mental health challenges/medications from Kate's past, and it was petty and very inappropriate. I want to reiterate that Kate was her best friend long before me, but she also disclosed a very personal event, that I never knew about, from Kate's life, which was wrong, and it led to people finding out something Kate hadn't told, causing her a lot of stress from what I've heard. Some of the people in Nancy's friend group reached out to me before the divorce, and one of them, we'll call Hannah, who knew Nancy before me too, said that she knew about Nancy's struggles to publish as she vented years back, after I told her about my talk with Nancy where she brought up her publishing struggles, and she said that many of them tried to encourage her. However, she never saw the jealous side of her despite knowing her for much longer, and she thinks it was the culmination of wedding stress among other things, but she didn't want to chalk it up to just that because she said that that was a deeper insecurity. She also told me to not beat myself up too much because her friend group never saw that side of her too, and they knew her for years before me. Nancy's friend group has since cut her off, but the last thing I'll say is on Kate. Kate and her friends have been really supportive and even apologized for not talking Nancy out of the talent show beforehand, but I told them they had nothing to apologize for. Hannah said that Kate has been really hurt by the sensitive posts and having to explain things to people she never told. She also mentioned that Kate is considering going after Nancy legally, but she's unsure if anything can be done since it was on Facebook, now deleted, though she does have screenshots. It has apparently taken a toll on Kate's mental health, and she's exploring her options. I won't come back to this again because it doesn't really involve me anymore, but I'm trying my best to be supportive of her because she didn't deserve any of this. I hope it all works out for her, whether she decides to pursue legal action or not.